Chapter 2. Mississippi Goddamn. Isaiah Taylor awoke before dawn on his own cot in Mississippi. He leaned up, rubbing sleep from his eyes, fighting face first through the cobwebs. The thick threads of the nightmares began to evaporate and fall away. Flashes of blood and war, shame and rage, blue demons on his ass, a fucking lion, some yarn about an old cracker woman who wanted to make him breakfast. He tried to hold them. His waking brain screamed at him not to forget that it was important to remember. But as he reached for the dreams, they flitted away from his grasp, disappearing entirely. Even the old lady was already mostly gone. His younger brother, Silas, as usual, had gotten up and out before the dawn had cracked open, so Isaiah was alone in their tiny room. He startled to full wakefulness when he recalled that this was the day. Her letter said the train would roll on in round about 2. She expressly asked him not to come to the station. They had played Jackson for 3 nights running, and she was sure she would be a stinking wreck by the time the train arrived in Cox County. It was an 8 o'clock show, and at 11. She would be back at the rooming house by 1 a.m. She hoped he understood, and would he come over at 1:30 to cap the night with her? Oh yes, decidedly yes he would. Today was bound to be the longest damn day of his life. That was a for sure thing. As they washed his face in the basin, he glanced at the tarnished old mirror and saw his unscarred face. He smiled at the last memory flicker from the dreams. In it, he had had a slashing wound all the way across his visage. He was glad to see that was not the case. As fierce as it made him look in the dream, he preferred his face just the way it was, and was pretty certain she did too. He pulled on his work clothes and laced up his boots. All thoughts moved beyond the day ahead to the night that awaited him beyond it. Despite his mother's assurances and his father's guarantees of his superiority, Donnie McMaster was not particularly special in any way, shape, or form. In a just world, Donnie would have been seen for what he was, a mediocre mind in a mediocre body, with mediocre chances to rise up out of that mediocrity. In a just world, humbled by that self-knowledge, he might actually have risen above it and made something worthwhile of himself. Unfortunately, the world he was born into was a defiantly unjust world, so self-awareness would never be something Donnie McMaster would need to prize. He was white, tall, and in possession of money enough to get by. Life should have been one joy to the next, buoyed invisibly by those birthright gifts. But Donnie was not a happy-go-lucky chap. He was angry and arrogant, and for unknowable reasons, bitter. As mean to his dog as his wife was to him. Every time Donnie kicked that dog, it was in direct proportion to his wife Missy's mistreatment of him. He swore that one day he would leave her, and then she would be sorry for the belittling and contempt he suffered at her hands. He would find himself a new wife, who was prettier and younger, one who would treat him like the man that he wanted to believe he was. Donnie swore it every day. But he had not yet done anything concrete about it, beyond sleeping with the occasional prostitute. And as much as he enjoyed those moments of being treated as master and commander in a compact where his money made him handsome and powerful, shame always overtook him and led him groveling home. Someday he would rise up and Missy McMaster would be sorry. She would miss him sorely when he was gone. Someday. In the meantime, he took to the simple pleasures. He kicked the dog, ate too much fried chicken, cornbread and pie, and abused the sharecroppers, working his parcel of land with joyful abandon. The night before had been a particularly bad night. It started well enough. A fine dinner with Missy and his folks. But on the ride home, Missy started in on him and would not let up, despite his despairing protestations. It was odd. He went to the prostitutes to escape her and revenge himself upon her, although she had no idea it was going on. But the shame of betraying her made him feel so guilty that he could never speak his mind to her. It was a vicious cycle. The more she mistreated him, the more he ventured out to the whorehouse for revenge. The more he let her mistreat him, because he felt like he had then earned the flagellation. Someday, he was sure that someday he would truly have his fill, and then he would really let her have it. In the meantime, as her words hit him about the head and neck like spatters of hot grease from a cast-iron pan, he wondered how to get out of the house and get with one of his favourite working girls so he could have his silent, impotent vengeance. But there seemed no way out. He could not think of any lie to tell her that would be unflimsy enough to get him out of the house once they got home, so he swallowed all the loads of shit she was shoveling into him, taking it in silence. He planned to kick the dog soundly the first chance he got, but even that would not spend all the fuel she was pouring in his ears. Donnie did not sleep well. He awoke early, gazed across the room at his snoring bride. A simple down pillow would finish her off. Only just a simple pillow, he thought. What Donnie did not know was that in the comfort of her snore-inducing dreams, Missy thought the exact same thing of him. Her mediocre mind had not yet figured out how to act on the pillow-smothering impulse without getting caught for it, so she planned to keep feeding him fried chicken, gravy and biscuits, rhubarb pie, and double helpings of ice cream, on the off chance that his appetite for tasty poisons might eventually turn the trick. She was a dull-minded but patient woman. She could bide her time as necessary with the best of them. Between her snores and the ticking of the wall clock, Donnie began to lose his mind. He roused himself and got out of bed. He needed to take a whiz, something fierce. Donnie figured the girl would have put the breakfast on by now, and he was sorely in need of coffee. Donnie pulled on dungarees and a shirt, then waddled downstairs and out the back door to do his business in the outhouse shack. Come mid-afternoon, Isaiah Taylor was working the scythe, clearing the field of the last infected cotton plants. He sang an old 18th century British Army marching song to himself, giving his scything a focused rhythm he could bear up under all day without quitting. Whoa, Black Betty, bam-ba-lam, whoa, Black Betty, bam-ba-lam. Bad luck harvest year for sure. His pap was apt to piss fire and shit brimstone. Black Betty had a child, bam-ba-lam, damn thing gone wild. Bam-ba-lam, word out of my mind, bam-ba-lam. Isaiah paused a moment to wipe his brow. He had been making steady mincemeat of the bastard since dawn. As Isaiah glanced ahead down the rows, the gnarled fingers of dead cotton plants poked up out of the red clay, twisted and angry for a quarter mile. A nauseous wave of disgust at how far he had yet to go washed through him, but he swallowed it. His mama's voice was in his head. "How you eat an elephant, baby?" "I don't know, Mama. How you eat an elephant?" One bite at a time, baby. One bite at a time." Isaiah looked at the cotton plant just before him and swung the scythe through the dead stalks. "Yeah, there's another bite for you, you son of a bitch, an elephant." Final puffs of cotton floated up from the strike like tiny clouds floating away on the fall wind, or the spirit of the plant lofting up and away toward heaven, untethered by Isaiah's blade, the troubles of this world forgotten, leaving it lighter than the air. Beyond the lofting cotton, he saw two white men on horseback approaching. Well, hell, they going bad to worse. He stood the scythe beside him and leaned on it. He sure as shit would not let these motherfuckers ride up and watch him scythe away like some fucking slave while they sat a horseback watching. The tenant farmer who ran the Taylor family plot, Donnie McMaster, was on the lead horse, a smirk lighting up his pie-hole. Beside him was a man Isaiah did not know. Unlike Donny, this fellow had some style to him, handsome, well-coiffed, wearing a starched, white linen shirt. "Hey, boy, don't you stop breaking your back on our account," said Donny, smirk resplendent. Isaiah knew the hateful whoreson was showing off for the fancy fellow. He widened his stance by a hair's breadth, just enough to show that he had settled on the earth precisely where he intended to stay until he chose to move himself. The handsome fellow nodded a greeting to Isaiah. "What's wrong with this acre?" "Gone rotten. Wet blight," Isaiah replied. The fellow tisked. "Lot of rain. That'll happen time to time." Isaiah nodded. "Yup. Fungus got in 'em and spread, ate 'em all to pieces. Got to clear cut 'em, burn 'em, replant fresh in the spring." Donny frowned. "Hey, you uppity thing, you call him Master Cox when you talk to him, you understand? This man owns everything you can lay your damn eyes on right now." Isaiah looked up at Donny. "He don't own me, and he a mighty bit young for me to call him master." Isaiah had seen the actual Master Richard Cox from a distance, touring the fields before. His Aunt Jean worked 2 counties over at the Cox house as a maid, cook, and seamstress. He figured quick that the young fellow before him must be a son, Harlan Cox by name, if he recalled, the heir apparent. "What happened? His papa up and die?" Isaiah asked. Donny's bowels moved a little, rage stirring them. "Time was I'd take you to the whipping post, you insolent son of a bitch." Isaiah nodded. "For sure. Time was." Harlan laughed. "He's got you there, Donny." Donny smiled over his upset. "Yes, sir. But he best recall the whipping post is still standing." Donny sucked his teeth. "How old are you, boy?" 18. 18, sir," Donny corrected. "I suppose." Donny paused. His teeth still smiled, but the smile in his eyes had faded. "This boy gonna need a fair piece of luck to make 19. Isaiah shrugged. "Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong." Isaiah thought it was strange that these 2 crackers were just sitting there on horseback talking down to him, failing to take into account that he was the only one in this field with weapon. "Well," said Harlan, "it's a shame about the blight. Y'all gonna leave a big debt to make up come next season." Isaiah looked at Harlan, unflinching. "Don't you worry yourself. We patient. We never fail to pay back. We ain't going to now." "I swear to God, boy, you don't call him sir, I'm coming off this horse and give you a hide and you ain't gonna forget," said Donny. Isaiah eyed him a moment and held his gaze. Then he turned back to Harlan. "Sir." Harlan laughed out loud. "Oh, B, you're sitting on some big nuts, boy. I'll give you that. Mr. McMaster's not always right, but he's right about this. You keep on with this attitude, you'll be lucky to hit 19. "As you say." Harlan laughed again as he turned his horse. "Come on, Donny. Let's go get that drink, see those females that you had in mind. Leave this boy to his scything." Donny cast a glance back at Isaiah, then turned his mount and followed Harlan across the dead field. Isaiah stood still, staring after them until they had completely disappeared from view. Only then did he go back to work, singing his song. "She really gets me high, bam-ba-lam, you know that's no lie, bam-ba-lam." He sawed the remainders of the rotted cotton to a nub in a brutally fast 2 hours. Each stalk was Donny McMaster or Harlan Cox's ankles. When it all lay in waste, he dragged the dead cotton plants together, lit them up, and watched it all burn.